Good morning, folks. My name's Sandy. This is Sawing with Sandy. Welcome back to beautiful Central Ontario, Canada. I'm out here amongst my trees on my own land where I'm about to take this land plane you see behind me and for the very first time try to smooth out some of my trails. Now, up until recently, I didn't really know much about land planes. In fact, I'd never even seen a land plane in person. But that all changed recently, and I've now got a land plane that I am going to try to tackle some of those lumps and humps and bumps all across my trails, which run throughout the forest. Now, what I've used before this was a box blade. Now, a box blade is a great tool, but what it does, it often moves a lot of material, and you're having to control the 3-point hitch on the tractor quite closely to make sure that you're dropping some of that material where it needs to go. I've been told, and I haven't tried this yet, but I've been told a land plane is great because more or less what you do is you just go to your trails, you drop it down, and you let it take its toll on the land. It more or less knocks down the humps, fills in the low spots, and you just continue on your way. So this is the unit I'm going to be using. This I picked up recently. You might have seen it in a recent video from Farmer Equipment Sales in Central Ontario. This here is 6 foot wide. I think it's got an overall dimension actually of 78 inches. Hooks up to the back of the tractor. It's got some scarifiers on here. There's 5 of them. That's these ones right here. So you can see here they've got holes. They lift up and down. And we've also got 2 blades here. These are rounded blades. And so if we have a look down here, when I say rounded, I'm talking about the cutting edge is rounded. Okay, so 2 rounded edged blades that are reversible. So if that edge ever wears out on either blade, you can flip this blade and then this edge can run down there. So 2 reversible round edge blades. The blades here are parallel to one another. They're angled though. You see them here, they're angled. One thing that's also unique about the land plane, check it out down here. So in these locations, see those bolts? You can actually lift this side up if you wanted, or conversely, you could lift that side up. What that'll allow you to do is to put like a crown, if you're doing like a driveway or a trail and you want the water to run off, you can set those blades so they're angled just slightly to create a crown, which is kind of neat. You'll also notice on this thing, and we'll have to duck way down here, head on up there. You guys see there, we've got these steel shoes, right? They run the full length of the unit. Those things get bolted into place. You can see the bolts here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so those 6 bolts allow that shoe to be removable. So if you ever wear through it, which I'm sure would take quite a while, but if you ever did, you could replace that. That's kind of nice. Same thing on the other side. You can get a good look at it here. There's the shoe, right? So we're going to be running that right down on the ground, and we're going to go over some trails like these ones. Now my goal is to take out, see these high spots here in the middle? If you drive over any wet ground in the spring especially, you tend to get some ruts created. My goal is to drive over this ground and kind of knock down that middle section and then fill in these outside sections. Now this isn't particularly bad, but up there it is bad, and I'll show you that in just a second. Before we get there though, let me just show you one more thing about the scarifiers. So we'll just take the pin out. Kind of hard to do one-handed, but you guys get the point there. So there's 4 holes, and then if we look down there, you can see it slides into place. Right now, if you were to ever bend one of these, which I'm sure you'd have to hit something pretty solid, you could replace those as well. So I've got them set up if we have a look. So they are just about in line with where the blade is. And so my goal is that will just take out any really high spots before the blade hits it. I don't even know if I need them right now, but we're going to leave it set as it is. And one more thing, if you have a look underneath here, you can see how the blades are bolted into place. You see that there? So that allows you to obviously take the blades off if you need to and reverse them or whatever you need. All right, now let's head back here and I'll just show you that trail that I'm talking about that's in particularly bad shape. What I'm walking over right now is actually some clay. And then up here it starts to transition to some sand. This is a part that's often very wet. And if I get any weight going across it at all, it ruts it really, really bad. And as you can see right now, this is kind of miserable. Now, obviously the tractor goes through it, but when you get a load on there, it certainly sinks down. And if you got a smaller piece of equipment, ATV, golf cart, anything of that nature, it can get stuck in a hurry. So we're going to come through here. We're going to see what this thing can do. My hope is all these high spots here, you can see I'm walking on one to stay dry. I'm hoping these get knocked out and some of the soil goes into these ruts. A little bit further up here, you'll see the same thing that happens with the sandy soil. We get some monsoon rains here sometimes, and well, it creates these little ditches, right? So the water runs down the tire track, and then it erodes it. And so I'm hoping I can knock some of this stuff down and smooth this out, because this is not very fun to drive on. If we make our way a little bit further, you're going to recognize this building. And if we have a look right up here as well, you're going to see the same thing. So the middle gets quite high. The rain washes out the tire tracks. And so I'm hoping to take some of the soil from the middle, and I'm hoping it fills in some of those spots right there. This is all sandy soil up here. Right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to head back at the machine and hope for the best. And one other thing I'll probably end up doing here, maybe with the mini excavator, I'll dig a little bit of a ditch, maybe over this way. So any water that accumulates here, instead of just sitting here, it can run out that way. Probably do that at some point. And just back here at the tractor, there's one other spot here you can see. See down here, this is solid clay. I'm going to come down here. I might have to lower the scarifiers, but I'm going to come down here and see if we can take out some of these bumps. You guys see the bumps I'm walking over right here? Maybe hard to see, but as we make our way down further, see down through here? So we accumulate water here in the ruts, and it makes for quite a rough ride. So we'll see what we can do. There are a lot of ruts, or excuse me, a lot of roots through here. And so we'll hope for the best. Just down from the tractor here, you can see this area has quite a bit of work that's needed as well. If we get right down here, you can see the ruts and the high spots. These high spots are actually clay. Well, this whole area here is clay. And so I might have to drop the scarifiers down just a little bit, but it'd be nice to be able to fill in these ruts and smooth this trail out just a little bit, especially if you get real down low and look up there. You guys see the bumps right here? Be nice to get those cleaned up. Anyways, let's get down to it. going to extend the top link here. Just so that it's less of the front digging in. I think it's not perfectly level at this point. So we'll just we'll extend this top link just a little bit and we'll see if that improves it. Try that. The high spots being filled in there. One big root here that I just picked up, I think. Here it comes. And there it goes. Alright guys, from a first use, as I mentioned, I've never even seen one of these hardly at all. That was really easy. I just had to get the top link length figured out. I had it, I think, a little short at the beginning. But this works very easily. One thing I do notice is, as compared to a box blade, the box blade feels really, really heavy, especially when you get a big load of soil you're dragging along. This thing is the same weight pretty well consistently as you're pulling it, just because it's letting soil run off of it or under it, underneath the blades to fill in the high spots. Let's make our way up here. You guys can see exactly what I see. And so I went over this twice, as you saw, and I'd say that's a massive improvement. Check out the high spot, completely gone. Keep in mind, I've never gone down this with anything like this before. In fact, I've never even taken a box blade down here before. And it's at the point now where I can maintain it. It's flat, and that's really great. One thing I do notice, this big root up here, I'll have to take care of probably with an axe or something. It's actually kind of loose. I could probably pull it out, but I should take care of that. But other than that, if we look up that way, it's beautiful. Nice smooth surface. And if we look at the edge here, where the edges of the land plane are riding, you can see it's nice and flat. And so that's a great thing there. I think this is going to end up getting an awful lot of use to take care of the trails. So let's get down to the hard part and we'll see what it can do in the deep ruts. And just as you guys know what we're coming into, here we are. We'll probably take a few passes over this one section here. This section here, this on the left, that's probably a good 4-inch drop there, maybe more. This got a lot of work required, so we'll see what we can do. Guys, there you have it. That's one pass. And one thing I should have done is put the tractor in 4-wheel drive. This is clay here, a lot of it, and so it's kind of slippery, but that is really good for a first pass. We're gonna go back and we'll do it one more time, and we'll see after a few passes if we can level it right out. Just as I'm down here looking at it, it almost looks like I should just dig this out as a ditch right here all the way along, and then smooth this on the right. Any water that falls will sort of fall in there. Anyways, one thing at a time. Alright guys, there's 3 or 4 passes, and as you can tell, it's quite a bit different than what we first saw here. I would say it's a drastic change. Leaving it like this now with the hot sun will dry it out nice, and obviously I'll dig a bit of a ditch on the right, but I'd say it's a huge improvement compared to what it was with only 3 or 4 passes. That certainly doesn't take very long to change the way this trail is going to function. That's amazing. I kind of wish I knew about land planes a long time ago, or at least looked at them more seriously. This is something I should have had originally. got a bunch of grass growing. Underneath of it is some clay. We'll take a few passes, knock the grass out. Wow, does that ever do a good job taking that grass right out? That's beautiful. Might have to bucket that out of the way eventually, but we'll just drag it where it goes for now. Wow, that's awesome. See if we can get that off there. One thing I'm noticing, just making the first two passes down this little hill, is my trail isn't quite wide enough. You guys can see where the shoes, the edge of the land plane, is riding up on this little hill on the side, and the same thing over here. So what I need to do is to make sure, obviously, the trail as wide as the land plane is, so that when I come down, the land plane can do its job. You'll also notice I'm picking up things that I didn't even know were here. That's because the land plane with the scarifiers, it kicks up all the debris, which helps it level things as opposed to riding over things like that rock. So that's quite nice. I'm going to make a few more passes here. You can already see it's going to look like a highway practically. And then we got to make our way back down this way. And well, I'm going to run into that problem again. You can see it's kind of high right there. And on this side, I've got trees. So we'll see how far we can go here. I've been meaning to cut the trails back for years. This might be the year. You guys can see up here, it'd be nice to fill in that stuff there and make my way down this way. We'll see what we can do. We're heading up that hill there. It goes up this way to the right, and this hill notoriously washes out, and so I'm going to go through and grade it a little bit and see what happens. The soil through here is pure sand, some moss in here, obviously pine needles from the red pines, so we'll see what we can do. So you guys can see what the trails are like. None of these trails have ever been brushed with the land plane or even the box blade for that matter. So if we make our way up this way, you guys can see there's a high spot in the middle, 2 tire ruts on each side, quite a bit of debris. I'm gonna have to go around this tree here, but it's pretty rough. Up here there's some big ruts as well, but the sawmill's just up here to the right, so we'll head up that way. Every once in a while, I'm probably just gonna lift the land plane and push any built up pine needles. Just push them out of the way. I just did that for the first time right there, and that worked pretty slick. All right, guys, we're at the sawmill. As you can tell, I'm just getting ready to roll down this way. I'm not sure how this is going to go. I was going to use the landscape rake to take care of the debris first, but since we're here, why not give it a go? Lots of debris on the ground, a whole bunch of sticks, a few low spots here, and a whole bunch of wood chips. So we'll see how this spreads out. It is doing very well with the scarifiers up. I kind of like that when there's especially a lot of roots in the area. Keeps it from snagging on them. So we'll give this a go. We'll see how we end up. Well, folks, there we have it. That is my very first use of a land plane on the back of a tractor. In fact, I just saw one in person for the very first time recently, and so I am very impressed with what it can do. Up until now, I've had a box blade, and the box blade has worked well, but it doesn't do what this does. This thing allows you to basically keep on moving, flattens what's behind you, fills in those low spots, takes off the high spots, and doesn't require the constant attention that the box blade does. The box blade, you got to watch because, well, obviously it's got a back on it here. It will accumulate dirt and soil and debris. And if you're not watching that 3-point hitch height, it will accumulate there and it won't go anywhere. And then you've got a big mound of dirt you're pulling around without depositing any. This thing here with the two blades, the two cutting edges here, it allows the soil and whatever else to fall over and underneath. And by falling underneath, it makes a nice level surface. It takes the high spots off, fills in the low spots. And for someone with an abundance of trails, and well, quite a few trails that are in poor shape, this thing's gonna make a big difference. This, with that landscape rake you might have seen in a previous video, is gonna be the perfect setup. The landscape rake will come along, get that big debris out of the way. This will come by with the scarifiers if I need it, drop down, it'll chew up the soil, flatten it out, and then I'll have some nice trails without all the ruts. So some things I like about this land plane in particular is the width. This is a 6-foot wide land plane. It actually equals out closer to 78 inches. That's a little bit wider than my tractor, which is nice so that I can cover my tire tracks. But it's not too wide that it's going to be sticking way out and I'm going to forget about it and clip it on something on my narrow trails. Other things I like is the adjustable scarifiers here. I like them being adjustable because in situations like this where there's a lot of roots I found, I can jump to the back, lift these up, still go over it with the land plane, smooth out the trail, but not dig into those roots. Down to the bottom here, the shoes, right? The steel plate here on the bottom. I like the fact that if that ever wears out, I can replace it. One of my concerns with having implements is that if you wear something out, you can't replace it. And then it becomes trash. Well, that's not the case with this. So I like that ability to replace the shoes. Same thing here with the scarifiers. That means I can continue to use it for years and years and years. Same thing here, right? I like the fact that I can reverse this. It allows me quite a bit longer life without having to replace those. One other thing I like about the land plane here is if we look down here, you guys can see the bolts, right? One there, and one back here. Then underneath there's this slot. As I mentioned before, by loosening those bolts off, I can lift up this side of the blade, and that allows me to create a crown on my laneway, on the trails, wherever I need it. Likewise, I can keep that where it is, and I could lift up this side and do the exact same thing. I like that adjustability. It allows me to pick and choose how I want my trail to be. So guys, that's going to do it for me here today. Because I haven't maintained my trails all that well with equipment like this, I got an awful lot of work ahead of me. Not to mention, if you look around me, I've got a lot of debris to clean up. So I'll be spending quite a bit of time here in the next few months, probably cutting back my trails, getting them back into shape, and the land plane will be something that I'm going to lean on to help me do that, as I will with the land rake. So glad you guys joined me. If you have one of these, be sure to let me know down below some of the things that you find makes it work well for you. I'd be interested in learning. Other than that, get outside, enjoy yourself, maybe take a breath of fresh air from time to time, and I'll see you next time.